Today, we're digging into a powerful legal document called the Dyna Project Report. It was born from tragedy, and it tries to answer one of the most agonizing questions to come out of the October 7th attack. And that's the gut-wrenching question at the heart of all this. When the victims of an atrocity have been murdered, the usual paths to justice, they're just gone. The Dyna Project is an attempt to draw a new map. And to understand their solution, we first have to see how they define the crime itself.
So the report's starting point is that the violence on October 7th wasn't just random. Not at all. It frames it as a very specific kind of crime, one that was designed not just to hurt people, but to literally silence them and to terrorize their entire society.
The report's entire analysis really hinges on this concept: conflict-related sexual violence, or CRSV. And the authors are really clear here. This isn't just assault. It's a weapon of war. It's used strategically to degrade and destroy, to attack what the report calls the very existential continuity of a people. And here's where the report draws a really crucial line in the sand. A typical sexual assault is a horrific, private crime against one person. But the CSRV on October 7th, it argues, was a public spectacle. It was done out in the open, sometimes even filmed, to cause psychological damage not just to the victim, but to everyone in their community. According to this way of thinking, that makes it a totally different kind of crime. Okay, so if this is a different kind of crime, you might be wondering, why can't our normal legal systems handle it? Well, the report breaks down exactly why the conventional approach to justice is basically set up to fail here. A normal prosecution usually stands on three legs, but the report shows how, in this case, each one just crumbles. Victim testimony: most were killed. Forensic evidence: the crime scenes were active war zones, often completely destroyed or burned. And trying to link one specific terrorist to one specific act, the report says it's nearly impossible in the total chaos of that day. The whole traditional model just falls apart. And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the chase. The report is blunt. If you use the classic rulebook, the perpetrators will get away with it. There will be impunity. And that's why they argue that finding a new way forward isn't just an academic debate, it's a moral necessity. So, that brings us to the Dyna Project's first huge proposal. If the old ways of proving a case are broken, it stands to reason you need a whole new framework for evidence. The report basically outlines a major shift in what we can even consider to be proof. Instead of banking everything on one type of proof, the report suggests grouping all the available information into these evidentiary clusters. The idea is to build the case from every possible angle, as you can see. This model lifts up evidence that goes way beyond direct testimony. For example, it gives special weight to something called res gesti statements. These are the spontaneous, traumatized things people say right in the middle of or immediately after an event. They're seen as highly credible because there's no time to think or make anything up. By weaving all these sources together, the report argues you can build a powerful, undeniable mosaic of proof. And what this really is a fundamental shift in strategy. The report is arguing that the legal system has to adapt to the grim reality of the crime. It's about moving away from a model that needs a living victim's testimony and moving toward one that's built for the awful context of a mass atrocity, where victims were systematically wiped out to prevent them from ever speaking. Now, a new way to look at evidence is one piece of the puzzle, but it brings up another huge question. Who exactly do you charge? And that leads us to the report's second major proposal, one that tries to redefine what it even means to be responsible for these crimes. So the report brings in this legal concept called joint criminal enterprise, or JCE. In simple terms, this doctrine says that if you knowingly join a group's criminal plan, you're on the hook for all the foreseeable crimes that other people in the group commit while carrying out that plan. And here it is. This is the knockout punch of the report's legal argument. It says that under this JCE doctrine, every single person who willingly took part in the coordinated attack on October 7th is legally responsible for all of its foreseeable crimes, even the ones they didn't personally commit with their own hands. This chart just makes the difference so clear. Traditional law, on the left, says you have to pinpoint the one person who did the one act. But the Dyna Project's argument on the right expands that circle of responsibility to include everyone who participated in the larger attack. It's a huge shift from individual guilt to collective responsibility for what was, in fact, a collective crime. So, when you put it all together, this new way of looking at evidence and this new way of assigning responsibility, what you get is the report's final blueprint for justice. And the authors present it as more than just a response to this one event, but as a potential model for the future. The report's final recommendations tie all these ideas together. You can see they're calling for big, systemic changes. Make CRSV its own unique crime category. Apply that idea of joint criminal responsibility to everyone who took part. Broaden the kind of evidence you use, and focus the legal strategy on the harm done to the entire community. All while, and this is key, keeping the standards of proof incredibly high. And this final quote, I think, really shows you their mission. The authors say it themselves. They're not just trying to get justice for October 7th. They're hoping to offer a new playbook for conflicts anywhere in the world where this kind of violence is used as a weapon, and where the old ways of justice just haven't worked. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful question. The Dinah Project report has to document some of the worst of humanity, but it also tries to build something from the ashes, a new and hopefully more effective standard of justice. Could its framework actually change how the world prosecutes mass atrocities forever? That's a question for international law and for all of us to think about. Thank you for joining us on The Explainer.